Hello, beloved. It's me, James, and today we're doing some sacred reading together. Remember, this is the next to the last time that if you're watching on the St. James website or one of our St. James channels, this is the next to the last time that we'll be doing that together. I don't know what the future of sacred reading is for St. James. I will be transitioning out as the pastor, and during the month of June, we'll be on hiatus from any of the moments or sacred readings. And in July, the new pastor, Alyssa, may choose or may not choose to continue the sacred reading part of our content. And that's up to her as Spirit leads her. And I wish her all the best in whatever choice she makes. And I hope you will too. So as we look at today's passage, I've chosen to go just a little bit longer than usual. It's not just one verse, it's not just 3 verses, it's 5 verses. So we begin with Ruth chapter 3, verses 4 through 9. Let me give you a little background if you haven't watched before now. Naomi and Elimelech are two characters from Bethlehem, Israel, and they are married, and they have 2 sons. There's a famine in the land, so they leave the land and go to Moab, where both of their sons find wives, Orpah and Ruth. Elimelech, Naomi's husband, dies, as do her 2 sons. So it is left with Naomi, her daughters-in-law, Orpah, and Ruth. Orpah, at the behest of Naomi, goes back to her people because women in this time period could not provide for themselves. So they couldn't own property and take care of themselves. They had to be connected to a man. Whatever judgment you have about that particular form, that is simply the way that at the time of the text, it would have been seen. So that sort of shapes the background of how we might hear it. Ruth is unwilling to go back to her people, the Moabite, and instead goes back with Naomi to Bethlehem. Naomi's name means joy. But she's no longer joyful because she's lost her sons and her husband. Ruth continues to provide for Naomi. She goes to glean in the fields, another law from Israel that protects those who are on the margin, who are poor or widowed. And so she goes to glean in the fields of Boaz, as it happens. And gleaning is picking up the grain that's dropped and then taking it home legally, freely, to provide for she and Naomi. Boaz asks after her from one of his workers and discovers that she's working in the field. He instructs them not to bother her, to let her do that, and tells Ruth herself that she is more than welcome to dip water. She doesn't have to bring her own, dip water from those that are brought by Boaz's servants. And one afternoon, he provides a lunch meal of roasted grain, and she takes the leftovers home, thus providing for both herself and Naomi, the 2 of them. Ruth continues to glean and provide for Naomi day after day. Eventually, Naomi asks about this, and Ruth says who it is, and Naomi said, "Isn't this great? This is our kinsman redeemer, someone to whom we could attach ourselves to, who would provide for us as women." And so we pick up today shortly after that. Naomi is delighted that it's Boaz. Here we pick up in verse 4. When he goes to sleep, Watch to see where he lies down, then go uncover his feet and lie down with him. He'll tell you what to do next." Ruth replied, "I will do as you tell me." She went down to the threshing floor just as her mother-in-law told her to do. Boaz ate and drank until he was tipsy. Then he went to sleep against the bundles of grain. When Boaz was asleep, Ruth silently approached, laid down next to him, and uncovered his feet. In the middle of the night, Boaz awoke and was startled to find a woman lying at his feet. "Who's there?" Boaz asked. She replied, "It's Ruth, your faithful one. Spread the corner of your cloak over me, for you are my family redeemer." I only read it once. If you do sacred reading on your own, I encourage you to read it 3 times, to do it aloud, just as I did it. That way you involve not just your eyes and mind, but your whole body, the vibration, the breath support, all of that helps when you're reading, to perhaps hear. All of Scripture was originally more or less intended to be heard, read aloud, or said aloud for the stories of the Bible. So this story is meant to be heard. If you want to cut away right now and read it yourself, or think about it yourself, or ponder it for later, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to share the thoughts that I had. The image that I really drew to was the image of the cloak being the corner of the cloak being spread over Ruth. Now, yes, there's symbolism behind that, and there is legal custom that ties all of this together. And what does this mean from a Bible study point of view? We're not talking about that today, though. We are doing Lectio Divina, or sacred reading, which is really listening for what it speaks to today. And I have had the sense for a while now, particularly as my father has died, and I've been working through the grief that goes with that, anger sometimes, deep sadness sometimes, and all the other pieces that come with that. As I've been working through it, I have felt God's cloak spread over me. In fact, it's a beautiful word image for me of what God does. God's spreading the corner of God's cloak over me, the sacred cloak, that I am within God's care, looked after. I don't know if you feel that way. God protects me from nothing, but sustains me in everything. And I feel God sustaining me. God sustained me through the time of Dad's sickness and being present with him. Even on the night he died, as I held his hand and my sister and brother were right there next to him, I felt the sustaining power of God, even though it broke my heart in those moments and in the time since. The overwhelming gush of emotion that come again and again. It's like a tidal wave. The water goes out, and it seems okay, and then all over me. But through it all, I have felt sustained, and God's cloak over me, surrounding me, holding me up through this difficult time. I don't know if you heard a different image, and of course, I invite you to share it if you did or do and want to. But I feel that kind of presence of God, and I was reminded of it today as I read that passage aloud to you. That cloak spread over me, that presence over me, not to protect me, but to sustain me, to allow me to carry through in this time of loss in my life. The changes going through my life, even now, I'm aware of God's presence in it all, like a cloak spread over me. So perhaps that has meaning for you. certainly can study it more deeply and discover the background behind the euphemism for feet in biblical parlance, particularly as regards the Hebrew Bible. But those are for another day, and perhaps for you to study. For me, the words of comfort that I needed came in that cloak spread over me. Until the next time, which will be our official last time if you're watching on St. James and any of the St. James channels. My personal channel, I suspect I will pick back up. It is my intention to pick back up in July, but that's dependent on how things look in my new in the new church where I'm serving. So we'll see. But otherwise, I wish you all the best. I do want you to remember you are infinitely precious and unconditionally loved for the gift you already are. Until next week.